Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, I'm excited about tonight. I have a legend coming into play here. Give me just a second. There we go. Fix that. Uh, we're going to be talking about kind of like the differences between like the tent camping, the more primitive bushcrafting camping, like on the ground or under a lean-to or something like that, all the way up to, tents on top of a truck. So, uh, without further ado, I'm going to bring the legend himself, Tyler Wood, in. Here we go. There he is.
I wouldn't say legend, but I appreciate your kind words. How are you doing today? How's everyone in chat doing?
Oh, pretty good.
Yeah. So, man, I mean, where do we even begin with this? I mean, you mentioned multiple different types of camping and scenarios.
Yeah.
Um, from more of that primitive bushcraft, lean to, or you go as far as rooftop tents on vehicles. Um, I know I've certainly done my fair share of doing a little bit of everything, and I think tonight's the night that we're going to kind of talk about what is the best. And again, this is all from each of us as our own perspectives. Everyone's going to have their own. So go ahead, Dan. You're the host here. Let's
Well,
start it off
uh,
here.
you know, I've been following your channel for quite a while. And I remember back in the days, where you had created your shelters out in the woods. Um, Quite epic, I might add. And if you guys don't get a chance to go look at those, they were they were something. And so what I wanted to say about that was, so you had that experience, and can you tell us a little bit about, um, how that was? You also did the hammock camping, which I did that with you as well, but you kind of had a little bit of both. So can you kind of tell us how the perspective, the differences between the two, the comforts maybe, things like that?
Absolutely. Um, so when it comes to more of the bushcrafting survival, more of like the manliness of going out camping. You never want to be too comfortable in that situation, if that makes sense. The whole point, again, for bushcrafting survival, there is a huge difference for a lot of the viewers that don't know. Survival is to the point of when you go out to do some sort of a survival challenge or you're in a survival situation, your main goal is to get in and get out. Maybe not necessarily get in. Maybe you got yourself in a situation or a position where you just got to get out of there. While bushcrafting, although it does sound the same, bushcrafting is about staying there and thriving in that environment. Um, and so, if you're doing just a overnight shelter, as far as comforts, uh, they're not always going to be right there, right? If you're doing more of a permanent shelter setup, you can make it as comfortable as you want. Um, I have always found a nice like lean-to shelter or building a cabin out in the woods. I do find those cozy myself. As far as comfortability, um, if you're just trying to go very minimal and no store-bought products, nothing brought from home, you're just trying to use what is in your environment. Yes, you can make it comfy, but it's very hard. You're going to spend more time trying to get comfortable, and you're going to start losing the focus on kind of why you're out there, right? I mean, there's a difference between that, as far as like sleeping in a $500,000 RV compared to sleeping in a Ozark Trail $30 tent from Walmart. You know, each one of them has their own benefits, their pros and cons.
Yeah, I was. you know, if you guys see me look from side to side here, I'm kind of jumping between the chat and things like that. And yeah, it was definitely some good information there. Let's take a moment here to just kind of say hi to all the folks that are joining us. See, oh wow, I think this is a record for me. I got 17 watching now. That is amazing. But yeah, we've got all kinds of people in here. Just see if we can throw out a hello. We got Dave with Beastly Ironworks. Good to see you, brother. That's my
Hey, good to
brother
see you,
from
Dave.
another.
Hey, bringing back all the old schools, huh?
Yeah, we got Colin in here. We do have Lower Michigan Adventures. Minnesota Mike outdoors. He joined me on my last little outing last weekend. That was excellent. And the video will be coming out this Tuesday at 6 o'clock. So you guys put that on your calendar. So we got Molly from Pest Hunter Outdoors, his best catch. So, and Jason, I see there, Samantha Lee's Originals. We got Daniel from TD Knives and Adventures, and we've got Matt, two guys in the Ozarks. Holy cow! And Grace, Grace is here. Oh, it's good to see you, Grace.
Good to see you, Grace. Beast, Dave from Beastly Ironworks. Man, it's been a long time. It's good to see you too.
Yeah,
Like I said, Samantha Lee. Wow, I mean, some of the people that kind of were there when we kind of started the whole YouTube stuff. It's amazing to see. You know, wow.
yeah,
Mona, good to see you, Mona, as well. Mona's from the other side of the sea. It's good to see you joining our live stream as well.
yeah. I certainly appreciate it. I mean, this is. We knew this was going to be epic.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
As soon as you mentioned it, I was like, man. I mean, you brought up really good topics, and that's one thing I struggle when I try to think about doing a live stream. Is like, what I want to talk about, and I don't realize like there's so much to talk about. You've kind of been like the back person on my YouTube channel when it comes to like recommendations as far as titles, thumbnails, keyword searches. I don't think I've told my viewers or gave you enough credit. A lot of my success that has came from my channel has actually been from Dan himself.
well, I certainly appreciate that. But
Oh, absolutely.
you know, you're the guy that's out there in front of the camera, so you're doing the hard work. This stuff just, you know, this is, 29 years in IT, the behind the scenes stuff is kind
Right.
of easy flow for me. So,
No,
but
it's been awesome, and like I said, seeing some of these old faces pop up, it's just that's awesome.
right. So back to our topic. So we talked a little bit there about the hammocks versus, the ground tents. And, I've done the hammock camping with you. Uh, I haven't done any more since then, but I'd really like to. I'll have to give that another whirl. Uh, and I do the tents. I do have a tent that I can actually stand up in. I got plenty of room, so I'm not bumping the old noggin. But
I,
it's only a 3-season tent, so I need a 4th-season tent. So
yeah,
close.
those would
But
make a big difference, especially in the wintertime. Now, I've done primitive camping for a lot of the viewers here that don't know. I've done, the bushcrafting side of things, building my own shelters, um, building cabins, lean-tos. Went on that 7-day adventure with two other good friends of mine. I built a cabin up in the trees, which was pretty awesome. Hammock camping, which is, I always like to say, like, your first time hammock camping is like your first kiss. You just don't forget it. You know what I mean? It is an acquired taste for some people. Like I said, I've done the primitive. I've done hammocks. I've done tents. I've done uh, rooftop tents, tents on the ground. And each one of them, like I said, again, each one has their own pros and cons to them. and it's going to be a lot on preference. I like the biggest thing I hear with hammock camping is, well, I'm a side sleeper, um, which I can be a side sleeper too, and I think some of the best nights I've ever had camping were actually in a hammock. We want to talk about the different setups for what you're trying to go for, as far as how much gear do you need to bring, how long are you staying out there. That all plays a huge factor in deciding if you want to go for like a more of a relaxed tent camping. If you're going to be hiking in, doing a lot of hiking to get to that site, you don't want to have a lot of heavy gear. I mean, all that plays a huge factor when it comes to kind of figuring out your sleeping situation for the night.
Right. Now, I can definitely relate to that first time factor because you were there. I set up my hammock. Thank goodness the camera wasn't on. I went to sit down on the hammock and I should have, like backed into it and pushed it back a little bit, then sat down. But oh no, Dan's got to be cool. He sat down in the hammock, and next thing you know, back was on the ground and feet were straight up in the air. But I got to give it to you, brother. You did not laugh. You just immediately came over and gave me a hand and pulled me upright. That was
I would be
awesome.
lying. I would say there wasn't some laughs after my back was turned, but that's neither here nor there. And you know
There's no,
what? You're not a real hammock camper if you haven't fallen out of the hammock at least once or twice.
yeah.
I think that is fair to say.
We got Harshman Hills in here. Good to see you, brother.
But yeah, I mean, so lately, here recently, I've been doing rooftop tent camping,
Yeah.
and I've always found myself, the smaller the area that I'm staying in, as far as like if it's a primitive shelter or it's a tent, I've got 60, 70 different tents downstairs in my basement that I'm very picky when it comes to what I want to use. Um, and I like that small feeling, like that nice and coziness. And right now, my rooftop tent has all that for me. It is just so nice and cozy in there. I am up above the elements, so as far as like the cold winter camping, which I've done 2 nights in so far, has been tremendous with not having to pack as much or not as heavy of a sleeping bag, or bringing like space heaters, propane heaters, stuff like that. That is the one downside I do have with my hammock. But then again, I am someone that doesn't use an underquilt. I know using an underquilt with a hammock is very beneficial. I've been out and I've camped so many times to where I have found myself dragging the fire pit underneath me while I'm sleeping in my hammock to stay warm, because I'm just stubborn and hard headed, I guess. Um, but no, like I said, there's everyone's going to have their own opinion on what is best. And at the end of the day, me and Dan can say, like, hey, we think this is the best and this and that. But until you guys go out and do it yourselves, only you're going to know what feels the best for you when you go out to camp or bushcraft or whatever it may be.
Yeah. One of the things that really beginning to realize that, especially with all the latest stories of hikers and campers and ones that are going out solo and these really long, dangerous hikes, people take for granted that they don't try things out ahead of time. Uh,
Yeah.
Even if it's, set it up in the backyard, make sure all the parts are there, make sure you know how to get into the hammock right, things like that. Um, maybe if you have the ability to test it under conditions that are, say, cold where you are before you go out to a point where you're going to be and it's cold and you don't have the ability to, uh, you know, climb into a warmer sleeping bag or turn on a heater or whatever the technique might be. So
Absolutely. I think one
now,
of the
now,
things.
now, what do you say you're using now in your rooftop tent for when it, like it gets
So
cold?
for when it gets cold, I have two different options. So I have a heated blanket, which I've only used once. I'm not particularly a fan of those just because of the horror stories I've heard about short circuiting and, just not a good fit. I do have a Mr. Buddy heater. Again, anytime you're running any kind of propane, like a Mr. Buddy heater or some sort of heat source where it uses propane, having proper ventilation is the number one absolute must thing that you need to check. And it wouldn't hurt, like in the beginnings when I would do I've even camped in the back of my truck bed with the topper, made a little nice little like apartment style little area back there, and I would sleep with a carbon monoxide detector as well because I would use the Mr. Buddy heater in the wintertime to make sure I stayed warm all the time. But again, those things are not 100% safe. They're not, foolproof. I mean, sometimes stuff happens. Um, and so what I do now with my rooftop tent is I take a little space heater, a little office space heater. You can pick them up at your local Walmart for like 10, $15. And that thing is way more than I need for my rooftop tent. I mean, last time I was camping in 20-degree weather, it was anywhere between 82 to 90 degrees in my tent. So it was, I mean, like I said, it was a small little space here. You don't need much for a small area. And again, it's a
Yeah.
lot safer than carrying or having a Mr. Buddy heater up there or some sort of, like I've even seen people use like wood burning stoves, um, which again, those can also be dangerous too. I don't know if you remember that video I did, Dan, of the Amazon cheapest hot tent and cheapest wood burner stove.
Yeah.
One of the issues I had was the flute on the pipe. Just it was messed up from shipping and whatnot, and me and my buddy got like severe carbon monoxide poisoning because it was broken. It wasn't working. So
Now, what about, we're talking about the cold seasons. What about the transition over to when it's really hot? You know, or-
that is something that I think still a lot of people, including myself, struggle with. The last time I went out and I camped, it was roughly 82 degrees during the day, and it dropped down to 20 at night. And I was getting off work. I just threw some stuff in my truck to head out and get out to the campsite as soon as possible. Um, when you're in that beginning stages of going from a cold season to a more warmer season, it never hurts to keep some of that cold stuff on hand, whether you leave it in your vehicle, in your backpack, whatever it may be, um, because it can get pretty cold at night. If it's showing 70, 80 degrees during the day and you live somewhere in the Midwest like I do, I mean, just like I said, the other week it was 75 degrees and right now it's snowing and blizzarding out. Um, the biggest thing you want to do too when you go out camp is, I think, what the whole point of this podcast is about is being comfortable while you're camping. So extra blankets, heaters, uh, hoodies, sweatshirts, jackets, raincoats, stuff like that. It never hurts to have it. You rather have more than have less when you're going out.
right. And that's for me, I guess my style is more a little bit into the glamping style, but not quite there. I mean, I've seen people with carpeted wall-to-wall tents. They got blow-up couches in their tent, things like that. But uh, you know, one of my items that I use for when I camp and it gets really hot, especially at night in a tent. They always talk about how moisture builds up on the inside, but if you've got good airflow, it helps with that. So, for my assistance of good airflow, This is what I use. I've got one of the uh, rechargeable battery fans. I know it looks like it's upside down, but the box is upside down. It's actually hanging from a hook, so that's what it looks right side up. But
I think I've got that same one, as a matter of fact.
it, it's they're cheap, but they do the job. If you need something to get that breeze going, to cool you down, or even to keep the breeze flowing inside the tent to keep the moisture down, that helps. And just maybe if you're going to set up your tent or whatever, find a shaded spot, but certainly look overhead for the deadfall. You do not want that to happen. Not only will it damage your tent, but the contents inside are a little more important than the tent
Absolutely. Always
itself.
have respect for those widow makers.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably that's the first thing I do when finding a spot and where I want to set up, is just checking my area, because even if I plan on camping on my rooftop tent on top of my truck, and let's say I'm just not really feeling it, I want to make sure I have options. Okay, there's same on my same campsite, there's a nice open spot for a tent. There's a few trees I can hang a hammock. That's one of the first things I check when I'm going to look for a campsite, which it would probably be another good idea for another podcast, is, how do you know, or picking the right campsites, because that makes all the difference in the world when you're talking about comfortability. Um,
Right.
Especially if you're more comfortable with uh, going by yourself and camping amongst other people versus, maybe doing a hike in spot to where, it's your first time, or, like, I know a lot of my female subscribers always talk about, just they want to get out and do it, but they're just a little timid being a female, and being out in the middle of the woods. You know what I mean? Which again, this all kind of comes back to that comfort thing. Um, which I think that's kind of something else we should kind of dive into, as far as like what is the way that you find comfort when camping, because I think comfort is right up there next to your food, your water, and your shelter. Is you got to be comfortable while you're camping, because if you don't, it takes away that experience. It takes away the fun. Um, so yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I tend towards the glamping style. I mean, I've got a really nice cot that I put in my tent, and then I do have an air mattress on it. And before you guys go knocking the air mattress thing, um, if you protect it, it'll do pretty good for you. I mean, I had an air mattress last me like 2 years of, and I'm a pretty heavy camper. I'm not just your twice in the summer type person that camps. I camp a lot, so I did that. Like I said, I'm starting to get to where I'm going to cooler weathers, if not almost freezing temperatures. I do have a new 0 degree sleeping bag. Sleeping bag is a comfort. If you don't get match that to your conditions, that could make all the difference in the world. Or even just a sleeping pad that goes underneath it. So, I mean, back when you did the hammock thing, or in the bushcraft, where you slept under the shelters, did you have those kind of comforts?
No, not really. I think I think the biggest thing when it comes to comfort is maybe not even so much that the gear that you're using, because at the end of the day, you can pack everything that you need as far as when you're going camping. If you're doing hammock camping and you know it's going to rain, you bring your tarp, um, and keep you comfortable. I think the biggest thing too, like one of the biggest things I forget all the time when I go camping is a pillow. That is my number one thing that I forget every time. And it could be something so stupid like a pillow. For me, that's exactly what it is. Or if I'm doing something for a long time, like if I'm going out on a 7-10 day adventure, what I find and notice is bringing something from home to kind of fight that like homesickness that you kind of get while you're out there. I think that falls pretty well in that category of feeling comfortable. I'm trying to get caught up on the chat too. I know we had a lot more
Yeah,
people going in too.
I just noticed that one of my subscribers here, plain and simple, he was the gentleman that I met at the campground that I normally go to, and he is he's got a lot of background with the primitive camping techniques, things like that. And I actually, you know, was driving around the campground, stopped by, saw that he and his wife there were hammock camping, and it just looked like they were utilizing skills that I was curious about. So I stopped and talked to him, and what a wealth of knowledge, So he showed me about the Kelly kettle. I mean, that was something that was absolutely fascinating. He showed me his own alcohol burner stove, but he did show me different tarp builds, and that was just absolutely awesome.
Oh yeah.
To find that, some people when they go out camping, they have no interaction with other campers in the campground. Now, I do like less people in the campground, so you're not all stacked on top of each other,
Trying to find that perfect balance. Yeah.
you step out your tent and look at the backside of the the tent in front of you, and at night, and you see a shadow of something you didn't want to see.
Yeah.
But I do like that style, and I do like the just the serenity of getting out in the outdoors. But uh, you know, we talk about all these accessories and things that we have, but if you come down to the basics of it, um, and you probably are utilizing a lot less gear that in the truck tent than what I am using, because I have to pack a tent to take and set up. I mean, yours is just more or less an pop up, one and done, maybe a few little tweaks here and there, but uh,
And
how has that affected your ability to enjoy your outing more, not having to do all that extra setup, and you know you do videos for this stuff, it gives you probably more time for that, but you know does it give you more time to enjoy the experience?
oh, so again, with every different type of camping, there's pros and cons. I have a lot more pros I do with my rooftop tent than I do with any other setup. Um, for one, it is very quick. I think I can get my whole entire tent set up and everything made inside of it within 5 minutes, which is it's pretty nice. In a lot of the new tents, the ground tents now they made them a lot easier to get those set up and pretty quick as well. But the one thing that so let's go over the pros. Fast setup time. Don't have to worry about if it rains, it's going to be all soggy and getting my shoes dirty. And, that's one of the one things I dislike about setting a tent on the ground, especially when it's like summertime and you got that morning dew and everything's wet, and then trying to pack it all up. Um, it just makes for a mess. Um, the easy setup time, I like being higher up as I sleep. It just I don't know how to explain it. It feels so much different sleeping up on top instead of just sleeping on the ground. But again, like I said, there is disadvantages to that. So once I get to a campsite and I set up, I'm pretty much locked in there. Unless there's an emergency and I need to pack up camp, I'm really not leaving anywhere at that point. So I have to make sure I got enough food, water, supplies, you name it. And as far as like if it's a rather big park, I can't. I mean, I can. It's just it doesn't make a lot of sense to pack everything up to drive around the campsites and then come back and then reset back up. Even with it being a 5 minute setup, that gets very old very quick.
Right.
So that is one of the drawbacks to having a tent set up on your vehicle because once you park your vehicle and finding a flat ground, which it doesn't sound like that would be something to really think about, but it actually is when you go to set up. If your vehicle isn't at a decent level, your sleep is going to know that because it's going to keep you up at night. At least it does for me. If my head's higher elevated than my feet are, or vice versa, you definitely feel that in your sleep. That would be another disadvantage to that. So, but again, there's stuff that you can do to take precautions. Bring leveling blocks with you. Bring an e-bike. That's what I do. I have an e-bike to go and explore once I get all my stuff set up, so I don't have to rely on my vehicle at that point. Um, I would say out of the bushcrafting, out of the hammock camping, out of even my two RVs that I own, I think by far the best camping I do is in my rooftop tent. I absolutely love that thing.
Yeah, I was kind of reflecting back to when you and I first met. We did the hike-in primitive camp with the hammocks, and then during the day, we hiked back to the vehicles and drove around. Got to see a lot of beautiful scenery. Uh, Went fishing and everything. But if you got that uh, rooftop tent, like you said, it kind of locks you in. But you do have the e-bike that you could ride to other locations. And
Right, and that was another good point that you had brought up is like going fishing. A lot of people do like to go fish when they camp, and myself included. And typically, where you go fishing at a campsite, as we've all kind of noticed, is like it's not very close. I mean, it's a long walk, which again, I'm not a lazy person by any means. But when you're doing the YouTube side of things and you start realizing, like, okay, when I go out and I camp for the weekend, it's not always relaxing. You're constantly getting video shots. You're constantly carrying camera, drones, batteries, tripods, lights, you name it. And so that for me is a huge thing when it comes to rooftop camping on my truck. I have to bring some sort of other way of getting around in order to, like, if I want to go shoot a fishing scene in my camping video, I got to have another means of transportation to go and do that. There was a spot that I went and camped at where it would have been about a 30-minute walk, and that would have been 30 minutes of walking with my camera bag, my tripods, my fishing rods, my bait, my cooler, all that stuff. So again, um, it all depends on everyone's kind of preference and what they like to do. Now, if you're just someone that wants to go out, doesn't really like to fish, just go find a spot, park, just kind of chat with the local campers around your area. I mean, it may be a good choice for you.
right. Well, we've done a lot of talking about all this stuff, and I'm sure that our viewers have probably got some questions for you. So right now, let's take a look over here at the chat and see if anybody's got something they want to ask. So you folks go right ahead. Let's see what we got. I'm kind of looking back through the chat here. Everybody's been kind of telling about their let's see, nomadic
Hi, with
camping with
Mike. Good to
endless
see you.
weekends. Said greatest advantage with a hammock is you can get level anywhere. as,
That is true.
as long as you get the ends level, you could get one high, and
Yeah, I haven't hammock camped in quite a while. I think the biggest thing too is like when I go through all my camping and stuff. I don't like to burn myself out doing the same thing repetitively over and over again. And so I like to switch it up, and having those options, obviously by checking the weather and seeing what camping style fits that kind of weekend. Um, I mean, that does a lot too. Doing the
Yeah,
routines.
the like I said, my camping, is in a tent, and I go uh, practically every weekend in the, through the spring, summer, and fall. And uh, I, where I go, I try to do a lot of uh, different activities around there. Whether it just so happens that my campground is centered in a pine forest, so I can go out hunting for fatwood. I can, make fire starters there. Uh, test my bushcrafting skills. Just a lot of different things, and you know, it's a long day, so I want that comfort when I jump in the tent, and you know,
Absolutely.
got that nice mattress.
So
Man,
my buddy that's been going along with me on a lot of these trips, he's starting to film all of his adventures, and I'm helping him start his YouTube channel up. Believe it or not, he had went camping once prior before me and him started camping, and he hated it. He had the worst experience, and that was like 10 or 15 years ago. And I've always been a firm believer, no matter what your style of camping, if you're more primitive, if you're more of the glamping style, whatever it is, just take enough stuff to be comfortable. In that case with him, he was not comfortable at all. And I had to beg and plead him to come out and go camp with me because I wanted to show him like how nice camping can be. And now he's hooked. Now I get messages every day. Hey, let's go here. Hey, let's book this spot. Let's do this. Let's do that. And being comfortable makes all the difference in the world.
yeah, I just noticed a question there from Colin at Kincaid Outdoors. He asked about what's your buddy's channel, so we can
We haven't came
certainly
up with a
check
name
him
yet.
out.
Yeah, we haven't came up
Oh,
with a name yet or anything like that. He is trying to get as much content filmed, recorded, and edited so that when he starts putting out content, he doesn't make like the same mistake I did, where as soon as I would go out on the weekend, I'd come back on a Sunday, edit it, and post it right away. And then life gets in the way with jobs and kids and everything else to the point where you can't go out. He's just trying to make sure that he gets enough content to kind of be able to keep going and not feel that pressure of, oh, I gotta get something uploaded.
right. Okay. And I had seen that in your last video. But I saw that was one of the questions, so I thought I would throw that out. Uh,
I'm
but
seeing a lot of people asking about the leveling system. There is,
yeah,
if someone could honestly make something for the rooftop tents with some sort of hydraulic leveling system, I mean, they would probably be a millionaire because I don't think there's a system out there yet that has that. But like I said, you can take leveling blocks with you. Just having a good eye on your campsite. One of the things I like to do is I like to go a few days prior and scan the campgrounds, and that's the first thing I check is like, okay, how level is this spot? Or if I'm doing like some kind of off grid camping, how flat is the areas that I'm going to be parking? Is it going to be? That's just kind of stuff you want to kind of double check.
right. And I've seen a lot of even the van camping people. Uh, they have the leveling blocks for theirs too, so they're sleeping inside their vehicle, and nothing worse than having the low spot be where your head is.
Yeah.
all the blood rushes to your head. Hey.
Yeah, Past Hunter brings up a good point too. Always check weather.
Yeah,
I have no room to talk here. I've camped in blizzards. I've camped literally in a smack dab in the middle of a tornado. Yeah. Always check your weather. Obviously, that's something that is it's huge when it comes to being that comfortable. Some people like that rush and adrenaline. Myself, I kind of do. Like I think that's when I get some of my best content is when weather takes a turn for the worst. But again, I am for sure always making sure that I am safe, regardless, because no content's worth losing your life over, obviously. Um, but I have had a few close calls when it comes to the weather.
Yeah, I did a camp out. I think it was the year before last, and I knew it was going to rain. I mean, you could smell it in the air, but somebody came rolling through the campground and they hollered out, oh, you know, a storm's coming. It's going to be a bad one. And I'm like, okay, I learned this from years past when I experienced an F1 tornado that literally went right over my house. Um, that I mean, I'm a content creator, got to get that footage. So run out, get the camera. So, uh, like I said, they rode through, told me storms are coming, look out, or you might want to pack up and leave. And I was like, I got this. I'm ready now. Now,
I
little
just
did I know that that storm was probably one of the best sleeps I had in a long time.
the question Ozark's Great Adventures had asked: is there any sort of leveling mechanicalism to the like rooftop tent frames or something like that? As of right now, I don't think so. If someone does invent that, like I said, they could be the next Shark Tank, entrepreneur out here because I think that
Oh
would be
yeah,
something really cool to do.
yeah.
I seen that, and then I seen Mona had asked a question, which is a really good question. She said, "If money were no option, what new gear would you get to camp now?" What about you, Dan? What if money was no option here?
Um, I don't know. I'd probably be curious about one of the teardrop trailers, but then again, that kind of adds to, you got to store the trailer, you got to license the trailer, you got to, uh, if it's teardrop, I can't stand in it, so you kind of lose some luxuries that you gain, not having to set up the tent. So I'd probably have to go with the truck with possibly a rooftop tent.
Hmm.
Although I might consider one, uh, I've seen, where you can get up in the bed of the truck and then you go up and through
Oh, yep.
the top
I've seen those
and,
too.
and then have a bed up top to lay in. So
Man,
that would,
I have campers. I have two campers that I don't even use. I'm just not really a camper fan. I guess I to each is their own. For me, it feels too much like at home, especially when you got some that have like washers and dryers in them. Like no one wants to go out and do laundry when you're camping. At least I don't. I've camped so many different ways, and my two favorites, like I said, have been the rooftop tent, and I did a little bit of van life camping. I had bought a van and converted it into a camper, and that was pretty fun too. So I guess if money were no option, I would either get another old school van and convert it into like a mini camper, or I would. One of the other things I really want to do is the hammock tent camping. I don't know if you guys have ever seen those or not. Um, they're really huge. You have at least a minimum of like 3 trees, and it's literally a tent and a hammock combined. And that's something I've always wanted to do. And I know they're pretty pricey still. I think they're still like starting off at like 1,500-1,600 bucks.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Colin said convert a bus.
Yeah, that gets pretty
But
pricey.
that's still going back to the, too many comforts. You might as well get a hotel room or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah. That's my
So
biggest thing too. Like for me, camping, Which we can ask all of our audience too. Like you guys can put in your chat, why do you guys like to camp? For me personally, it's my internal clock. It resets my internal clock. It resets the sound of the city, all the to do stuff you have to do, all the responsibilities you have. When I go out camping, none of that exists. And it for me, it's something that just like totally resets myself. And that is one of the main reasons I fell so in love with the outdoors and camping is because it resets my internal clock.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's for me. It's like charging my batteries. You know, I need that outdoor experience to just get rejuvenated.
Mm-hmm. I've
And
seen
I
Ozarks.
go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Ozarks Great Adventure says, why do you like rooftop camping versus a truck bed? So I've never had a truck bed tent. I had a truck bed topper. Um, and I think a lot of it has to do with feeling secured. And some of the places I've camped have not been some of the safest places. Which going back to that comfortability, one of the things I like to always make sure the one piece of gear I always have is protection. A pew pew of some sort is something that I always carry with me no matter where I go. I never want to find myself in a situation where I have to have it or have to use it, but we don't live in the type of world where it's all sunshine and daisies. Um, I think between the two, the rooftop tent versus the truck bed, I think it's just that kind of that wow factor of the rooftop tent sitting up higher. And I do like getting attention sometimes when I do go camping, not all the time, but every once in a while it is feel nice. The last two times I went camping, I can't tell you how many people have stopped by and said they were just curious about my setup. They were asking questions and getting that engagement is something I love doing. Obviously, that's why I'm doing YouTube is I like to kind of share my hobbies and my interests and educate people when it comes to like camping and stuff like that. I had one gentleman that sat there and probably talked to me for about an hour just about my rooftop tent. Showed him like the inside of it, showed him how easy it was to set up and tear down. Um, so yeah, I think it's just more of that wow factor for me is why I think I consider the rooftop tent a lot better. And it just looks cool in my opinion.
Yeah, see, Randy from Ozark's Great Adventures, he and 210 Outdoors, they both got to try out one of the tents that actually fit in the bed of the truck.
Okay.
And it actually had an awning that hung out over the tailgate, which was actually really cool. And so if any of you guys are interested in that style too, run on over to their channels and check those out. And of course, we got Minnesota Mike in here. He was with me on my last adventure, which was a trip to the Ozarks. And he has uh, he had some different techniques for creating his shelter that was unlike anything I had seen before. I think he had some fabricated uh, corner pieces that allowed him to put the logs in them that he found out in the wild and not have to do lashings or anything like that. And then they had hammocks, they had the uh, ground tents. Um, we had one with the the teepee hot tent, so to speak. That was Ozark's Great Adventures, and of course me in the big glamping tent. So we had a lot of different styles out there.
And it's always nice to have that mix of variety. I look into the comments here back when I asked, why to our subscribers out here, like why do you like camping? And so like TD Knives pretty much said the same thing. It's a reset for us. Um, Mona had asked, are RVs considered camping? Yeah, absolutely. Like I
Right.
said, there's nothing against campers, and like I said, I own two. Me personally, I'm not really a fan of them. Especially if I'm going 4 or 5 hours away. That's more maintenance on the vehicle. It's more likely of getting a flat tire, have to change it on the road. I just like to be able to get up and go and not have to worry about something breaking or am I going to fit or if I need to stop along the way to grab some extra stuff, am I going to find a spot to park? That's mainly my reasons. But again, to each is their own. I've been in some really nice campers too, and sometimes I do have that feeling like, man, it'd be nice if I had a giant RV out here, but
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah, especially on those days if you have like mud and
oh, it's just raining
you
all
know
day. Like
rainy and
last
stuff
time,
like
yeah,
that, to be able to just come in and dry off instantly, maybe grab a shower in the trailer or RV, whatever you got. Uh, the creature comforts of home are certainly nice, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And in some people's cases, that's the style that they more or less, I don't want to say have to do, but uh, let's face it, I'm not getting any younger, so you
yeah,
know,
I feel that one. I feel that one every morning I wake up.
you probably won't find me, climbing a mountain and crawling into a cave for a real primitive camp like the cowboys type thing. But
I still have one or two of those left in me, and that's probably about it.
yeah,
Looking back to the chat, I'm seeing a lot of people also say, just to be one with nature. A lot of good reasons why to go out there. There's no wrong answer. That's always been something that a lot of people have asked me, like, why do you camp so much? Like I said, it's good for the body. I think it definitely feels like a refresher, especially if it's been a long week or whatever. Looks like Mona says, if there is there any places in America you haven't camped yet and you would love to try?
oh wow. um
That's a good one.
you know it's kind of a hard question. I did camp in Missouri this past weekend, and it was absolutely gorgeous there. um and I've spent time in Arkansas, Colorado, Tennessee, Mississippi, uh, here in Illinois, where I am currently, over in Iowa. You know, so and as a kid, I camped a lot of places, but I would say as long as I have, you know, a nice shaded, with trees blowing, not heavy winds, obviously, but nice breeze and the ability to have a campfire. It's that's again, like I said, one of those things that just rejuvenates you.
Absolutely. There is still tons of places that I want to go and camp. When I kind of started my channel, I had this crazy idea of camping in all 50 states, sleeping underneath the stars. Um, there's still quite a bit of places. I mean, there's one of the biggest ones is the Grand Tetons National Park, which I will be going out there in September. We're going to be doing an overlanding trip out there. That's one of the places that I've always wanted to go was Montana and Wyoming. I've always wanted to go out there and camp. I've been out there plenty of times, just never been able to camp. New Mexico, Utah is some of the other places. Alaska has been a bucket list as well. And there's plenty of places outside of the United States that I want to go. Like there's just so much. I mean, there's life is too short. You know what I mean? Like I want to travel and explore and be able to camp all over the place, from the backwoods to Australia, all the way to I want to go to Tokyo and I want to hang a hammock, up in the city somewhere and do a little stealth camping.
Oh yeah. Uh, One of the places I remember camping years ago was Mount Nebo in Russellville, Arkansas. And basically, there was a campground up there, and then one end of the mountain, which had a bluff overlook, you could watch the sun come up, and the other one you could watch the sun go down. So
Oh,
you had the best of both worlds all right there within maybe 2 miles of your camping area. So, you know, having scenic views, uh, things like that are a joy to have when you're
absolutely.
camping.
And yeah, and that's when it comes to like the business side of YouTube stuff, that's kind of the thing that a lot of us that like to camp and that make content, we like to chase those scenic views. I mean, those views do so much for a YouTube video that it's a lot of people don't think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I think me and you, Dan, we talked 3-4 years ago about how some shelter videos will do a lot better than the other, and it's just based on the scenery, like what's behind it, what does the back shot look like, how straight is that wood, like stuff like that, all makes a huge difference. That as we're watching, we just don't really understand that. But if you're on the video side of YouTube and you're making those videos and editing, a lot of that has a huge factor that plays in.
right. And, you know, I thought, originally you set up your tripod, stand back and go, nah, 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 you know. Um, but man, I am seeing where, you know, people don't get the feel of what you're experiencing by just doing that. I mean,
Video never. Yeah,
you got to move around. I mean, uh, Randy Ozark
attention.
Great Adventures. I mean, man, I am blown away at how well he does by moving around and taking different shots. I really got the feeling that I was there with him, you know. And I have a lot of cameras, so I thought, well, if I have a lot of different points of view, but no, you really want to give the experience to the viewers, so you got to move around.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Is I know I've talked about that on my channel quite a bit. Um, you don't realize what we'll go through to get some of those B-roll shots and how much we're constantly moving. Now we try to make that whole video look like we're out there just total relaxed and just not anything worry in the world. And then sometimes, like behind the scenes, we're constantly changing the angles of our tripods and getting B-roll shots here while getting B-roll shots there, and setting this up and then have to reset it up for filming purposes or stuff like that. Which again, that's kind of why I took in such a long break from YouTube, is because it started feeling more like a job at that point than it was just to go out and have fun and just kind of reset.
Right. No, I was just, you heard my phone probably chiming there. A couple of the guys have said that they think their comments are not making it through to the live chat. Um, I don't know if you guys happen to be aware, but up at the top, there is a drop down there where it says either top chat or live chat. If you're on the top chat, you might not see all the comments that go on there. So try switching that over to live chat, see if that helps. But let's see. Yeah, yeah. There's a good example. Minnesota Mike there just mentioned about Tyler's camera bouncing off the bike, and really giving you the feeling like you were right there with him. Uh, that's that's the things that people that create videos look for. Is the ability to really give that perspective.
Oh yeah, I just seen that comment. Yeah, that was not planned out by any means. I had just got a new phone mount for my bike, and that bike goes pretty quick, and I didn't realize how quick I was going. And it fell off. Phone even came out of the case and everything, and surprisingly, no damage to the screen, no damage to anything really. Um, But no, so yeah, like Dan was saying, trying to get those shots and trying to capture people, capture your imagination, capture your attention in the videos, because I think it's fair to say, Dan, we live in a time, a day where attention span is so quick. You got platforms like TikTok where you'll scroll through 1,000 videos in about a minute. YouTube is kind of on the older side of things, where it's more so for those people that really do enjoy the footage, the B-roll, the content, stuff like that. And trying to keep people's attention span nowadays is becoming harder than ever, when everything that we do is just, it's just such a fast world. You know, it's everything is just so fast nowadays.
Yeah, Mona had a question here, and I might let you field this question. What's your scariest wildlife encounter, and how do you prepare for it?
Oof. Um, I would say when I did the 7 day adventure up in northern Wisconsin, it was pretty much Canada is where we were at. Um, it was me, Mark, and Justin out there. Negative 58 degrees Fahrenheit, super cold. We had that polar vortex come in, and not only were we just fighting for our lives, trying to film content and cut enough wood just to stay warm throughout the night. That alone was already scary. Um, but no, there was one of the nights that about 2 miles up from where we set camp, we had a huge tent set up that had a giant, like 55-gallon drum, uh, makeshift wood burning stove that we would use in order to keep our camera equipment and our batteries warm enough to be able to film with. Because, like I said, it was, I think the warmest it got was like negative 32. And so trying to film with batteries that just completely die the second you plug them in because of how cold it was. So they had left to go and return some batteries, grab some new ones. I kind of stayed at the campsite to just hold everything down and keep stoking the fire, because if that fire went out, we were in big danger ultimately. And off in the distance, we heard a pack of wolves howling. And it just kept getting closer and closer. And like I said, the hot tent that we had our base camp at was about 2 mile hike uh, back into like civilization. And um, luckily, I had got a sponsorship from a guy from a company named Annihilator Air Guns, and he had sent me one, and I had it right there next to my campsite. And so I loaded that up. Um, I did a shot off into the woods to kind of scare them away, and luckily they never came. They never came back. The next morning I went out and was filming, and there was prints, paw prints. I would say roughly 100 feet away from our campsite. Um, like I said, if there's one wolf, there's usually five or six. So they all travel in a pack. So it was five or six of them versus me at the campsite. I would say that was probably one of my more scarier scenarios when I've been out camping, as far as like wildlife is concerned. But I think the biggest one ultimately would be Mother Nature, because Mother Nature can turn so quick, and if you're just not prepared or you're just not ready for it, it could end badly.
Well, right. Yeah. Whether it, like you said, whether it be the cold or the, storms, it, it's just something that you can't predict.
Yeah.
Now, me personally, um, I haven't really had any, what I would say, scary incidents with animals, because, I've done a lot of hunting, and been, I've seen bobcats. I think might even have seen the puma, uh, or it was a very large black cat, and it was not a house cat by any means. and several people that frequent the area where I was had basically said that they've seen the same thing. Um, but it's I think for me it was uh, experiences with human, because at least to some respect, an animal has a predictable mindset. You know, they're either hunting for food or they're protecting their young or they're just moving on. You know, people, you know, I had some experiences last weekend. Uh, the people coming through, walking down the road at 2 o'clock in the morning, playing Purple Rain and talking loud. It's like, you know, what are these people on?
Red
And
flags, red flags.
yeah, and then I think it was last year out camping, had people pull up into my campsite with their lights on my tent at like 2 o'clock in the morning and holler out to me that they found a dog outside of the campground out on a road and wanted to know if it was mine. Yet when they got out of the car, I saw them get out. They had the dog in the car and they let the dog get out and run around. And when they got back in, they didn't say, and I could hear them plain as day. They never said to the dog, get back in, or they didn't have to grab it and coax it. It just hopped in like that was its place. So, yeah, maybe those people were a little on something. But mine was the only campsite they stopped at their first pass through. They came back 30 minutes later and then went to everybody else. So,
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. Humans are definitely a lot more unpredictable than animals are by
yeah.
far. Like I said,
But
that's why you
yeah,
always take safety cautions.
yeah. And again, like you said, the weather, the unpredictable conditions. I mean, look at the stories in the news lately of, people that have gone on extensive hikes that have, things happen to them. They, I'm sure, never expected it to come to that event. So therefore, you really got to practice things. Practice your simple skills that
No
you would be
surroundings.
using. So how we doing, audience? You guys got some more questions? I know a lot of the
Absolutely
chat's
would
flying
use.
by. It's kind of hard to keep up with some of it, but uh, maybe ask that you put a capital Q before your question there so that they're a little easier to know. Bear spray works on people too. Yeah, that it does.
It is, but it also lingers too. So if you have to use it, just be
Oh yeah,
cautious. Know that it whatever you spray, it's gonna leave that smell all around you, and
in your camp,
yeah, it can make it for a very unpleasant night. But
right? And Jason
not a
from Pest Hunter Outdoors, he pointed out, about the animal side of things. They're curious.
oh
They
yeah,
might get in and to investigate.
absolutely. Ozarks Great Adventures says about how much is a basic rooftop tent. I did a lot of extensive searching. First place with it being, the new age of 2025 where you can order everything online. I started on Amazon. I was going through Amazon and you can find a pretty basic, more of like a clam style. Because you got to remember, there is different styles of rooftop tents. The first one I was looking at was more of a clam shell style of a rooftop tent that just literally flips up, kind of like like you're opening up a book. Um, I think those were starting off at like 580 plus maybe $200 for shipping. Um, both the rooftop tents that I have found on Facebook Market. That whole reason I have a Facebook ultimately is for a Facebook Market. It's just a search and wheel and deal. So the rooftop tent I
Stay in
got.
touch with me.
Yeah, yep. So the rooftop tent that I bought, the Tough Stuff, that is a 4-season tent. It's way bigger than I need, but I got that because I take my daughter camping as well. I picked that thing up for $500. It also came with an annex, which is it's a pretty much a shelter that goes underneath that hangs over, and you can zip it up, and it's a little room, a little privacy room. I picked that whole thing up for $500. I did have to drive down to Kansas City to pick it up, which was like about a 4-hour drive for me. But it was a nice little getaway, and it's something I've been wanting since I got rid of my last one. So if you just search hard enough, check your local Facebook Market. You do that. Search Amazon sometimes. Every once in a great while, Amazon will have like their Prime Days or their deals of the day, and you might be able to pick one up for $500-600 there. You just never know.
Right, and that's another good point is where can you find the deals for rooftop tents, things like that, hammocks even. But again, I stress, try it before you use it.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. My buddy actually used mine. He took my truck for a weekend and he used my rooftop tent out. He's never done that. He just started hammock camping. He just started camping in general since his first one was so terrible. He spent a couple weekends in a tent. He spent a couple weekends in a hammock, and he spent a weekend in my rooftop tent. And he fell in love with it. And I even told him like, hey, just take my truck, take it for a weekend. Make sure you like it because it is an investment. At the end of the day, everything that you do buy is an investment. So he went and bought it.
do I need to come borrow your truck?
Hey, well, take that drive. It'll be worth it.
Yeah.
So he tried it for a weekend and he ended up buying one. As you've seen in some of my videos, he's got the white Dodge, and he absolutely loves it. He fell in love with it too, and he was very skeptic because he's a bigger guy. He didn't know how he'd feel going in and out on the ladder, especially like going to the bathroom at night, having to climb down, and then he realized that it wasn't as bad as he was thinking. So
Yeah. I mean, it's basically like climbing into a bunk bed, right?
pretty much, yeah, it brings you back to
Yeah.
them old school days.
Yeah. I fell on my head many a time when I was a kid out of a bunk bed. So that explains a lot.
Mike
But
Outdoors says we can start a sign up sheet for everybody who wants to try out Todd's Rooftop. Hey, there we go.
there you go.
We'll pass
It's
that
the
thing
new
around.
what do they call it? The B&B.
Yep. And it's an Airbnb or a lifted B&B.
Let's see. It'll be TNB, tent in bed.
Tent in bed. There we go. Hey, yeah. See, we can start our
Yeah.
own business up.
Yeah. So looking back here, I believe I saw a question from.
Woods B&B.
I hope I pronounce this right. Is that Danielle Boots? Is that her name?
Where are you seeing this at?
Let's see. On every camping site you've been to, which one was your favorite?
Is that by Mona?
No, that was let's see the name Danielle Boots.
Oh, Danielle Boots. Okay. Oh, Danielle Boots. Hey, good to see you. On every campsite you've been to, which one was your favorite? Oof. I've had a few. Ledges, for some reason, I had one of the best camping trips I ever have been on, which was I think about 2 years ago with my buddy. We went out camping out there. It was a perfect 85-degree day, and then it just started raining out of nowhere. We set the tarp up. everyone's like leaving the campgrounds. It's thundering. We had a fire going. We had hot cocoa. And we were just so comfortable. And it was just like chaos all around us. But at that same time, it was so peaceful just sitting there, just taking everything in. That one stands out, definitely for sure. Um, Another place was Yellow River State Forest. I had fallen in love with that place just by the pure beauty that it offers. Um, it's kind of hard to say to pick a favorite. I camped all over the place. Um, I have a feeling though the trip that I'm going to be taking here soon, going up to the Montana Wyoming area, I think that's going to probably be my new favorite because I absolutely love the mountains. I love the hot springs, and to be able to go out there and camp and be so far away from everything, I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, for me, um, you know, you kind of mentioned about the Yellow River where you fell in love with it. I think for me, it's what was the probably the single best memory of a camp as opposed to where it was. Uh, and mine, I think, was probably it was in Colorado at Carter Lake, and my daughter was with me. I got to take her on her first camping trip, and the first night was, or well, actually, we only stayed one night. Um, but that night, campfire, they had friends with, they had kids relatively close to her age, some older, some younger, but she had people to play with. She had a blast. But that night, unfortunately, and we're talking the days were in the 90s. That night, I think it dropped down to 30. And we were not entirely prepared. We didn't have enough blankets. I mean, there was nothing in the forecast for it. And so I was like, oh, that's going to be the end of her wanting to go camping. And, when the trip was over with, she said, I don't ever want to go camping again. But 2 weeks later, she asked, we going camping again. So,
I see. And
it,
I find it some of the times, when I've gone out camping and something just doesn't plan out right, maybe a stake for your tent breaks or your strap breaks for your hammock or whatever it may be, change of weather. Um, at the time, it feels like, oh man, that was such a crappy, this is so crappy, blah, blah, blah. But then you look back and it's like that trip I took with my buddy when it started storming on us. It's like, man, I mean, that was so fun. Everyone was leaving and we were just kicked back, relaxed, staying dry. Like,
yeah,
it was some really good stuff. I've seen a lot more questions come in.
yeah.
Mike Outdoor says I can start. Oh yeah, the rooftop tent. Woods B&B
Question
question.
about the tornado that you lived through.
What's the place that? Oh, so that was at Yellow Banks. Uh, yeah, me and my buddy went out camping. Um, it said that we were in for severe storms that night. Um, Especially living in Midwest, it's either such a hit or miss. Rarely often does something happen. But no, that night we definitely got a tornado coming. The worst part of all, I was in the middle of making dinner when it happened, and my dinner flew like 30,000 feet away from us, and a lot of the gear as well. Um, and it was funny because just prior to when I was editing the video, I was saying, hey, we're just some Midwest boys. We're not afraid of no tornadoes. And literally the next scene is like, get in the truck. We got to go. Because they started lifting the truck up. And yeah, it was fun times. Again, that was one of those times it sucked then. But looking back now, I mean, that video brings in like 2,000 or 3,000 views per month
Yeah.
constantly. So I'm happy with it.
Now, Ozark Great Adventure wants to know if you want to auction off one of your rooftop tents real fast.
Start bidding at 400.
There we go. Who knew? Who knew that
Um,
the live stream would turn into an auction?
Mona said, if Bear Grylls challenged you for a week in the wilderness with just 5 of your items to take, what would they be? Oh, Mona's got some good questions.
Oh yeah! Wow.
Oh, just 5 items. I would say I would start off with a tarp. I would definitely go with a tarp. Again, this all depends if I knew where we were going, what my area was looking like, um, something like that. How long am I going to be going out there for? That's another huge thing. I would go with a tarp, a pot, some. I mean, I'm going to say fishing string, but I mean, if we're in the desert, what good does that do me? You know what I mean? Um, yeah, just not knowing is the huge thing. That's why it's so important when you go to plan something out is know that surrounding, know like the wildlife, vegetation, what's safe to eat out there. I would say a knife, a tarp, a pot, and a ferro rod, and maybe some sort of fishing um, little kit. What about you, Dan?
Um, yeah, I mean those are all right there at your basic things. Um, you're absolutely right. It depends on a lot of the conditions that you would be in. Um, but if you're somewhere that has coconuts, you got a pot to boil in. If you're somewhere in the desert, you're going to be in rough conditions there. I think that's that or Arctic. It would be some really tough conditions. But yeah, I would definitely go with those same basics because you got to have your pot to boil your water in. You got to have your tarp for a shelter. Uh, something to help you perhaps catch food, which whether that if you are not anywhere near places that you think there would be fishing, I might be inclined to maybe something for snaring,
Yeah,
uh,
snare traps with some
something like
fishing.
that. But and of course, definitely your knife and cordage. You know, of course, you could make your cordage.
Those are some good questions, Mona. Very good
Oh
question.
yeah, absolutely. I think Mona's at the top of the list for that. Scroll back here a little bit. I hate to leave anybody out, and I know some of them have made some comments and they thought that they were being missed. I hope I didn't miss anybody.
Like I said, it always depends on your surroundings. That's huge, especially someone who went through all the alone tryouts and everything like that. I did that, and I did Naked and Afraid as well. The biggest thing when it comes to picking your survival items is knowing your surroundings, knowing where you're going. If you're going to be in the Antarctic circles where it's going to be cold and the water's froze, you're going to have different gear, different items than somewhere down in like the Florida Everglades, where you're going to be in the swamp and the humidity and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, we got a question here from Daniel at TD Knives and Adventures about favorite meal to cook.
Ooh, man, I'm a steak and potato kind of guy. Um, I think my favorite here recently that I've been doing a lot on my videos is I've been making steak tacos. Everyone some of the people that are in the chat know that have gone out with me know that they all love it. I don't know what it is. I don't do anything too fancy, but I do make cowboy breakfast burritos every morning. Yeah, see that smile, Dan. Dan already knows.
You just nailed mine on the head. I
Yeah.
mean, there's to me, there's nothing like that. Getting up in the morning, that first cup of coffee, cowboy burritos, have a slight haze of a fog, and critters running around in the woods nearby. It's just it's a breath of fresh air.
Uh, Make me
But it's
want to
your
go
fault. It's your
out.
fault that the cowboy burritos. It's your fault.
They are always a success every morning. Um, yeah, I mean, anything steak and potato related. I've done some pretty crazy cooking stuff. I try to mix it up and be a little different than a lot of stuff that you see on other channels. I've done pizzas. I've done chicken nuggets. I've done wings. I've done. In the summertime, I love to do some sort of like a backyard barbecue style dinner with whether it be like a pulled pork sandwich with potato chips and a potato salad. Um, I love to cook too, so I mean that doesn't help at all. I love to cook. I love to try new things. But if I had to pick one, it would either be the steak and potatoes or it'd be the cowboy breakfast burritos.
Yeah. So Randy, he brings up a point here that he prefers to see real food cooked versus the add water bag foods,
Yeah,
and y- you know, I think the bag foods have their place, but I think people also like to see what can you do, over a campfire or at least in an outdoor setting. Um, Last weekend, one of the guys, Minnesota Mike, he made uh, bread. You know, that that was oh my
oh
God,
yeah, I
bread.
forgot about bannock
That was
bread.
absolutely. Uh, I want to learn to make the bannock bread. Um, there's and I'm guilty of like I said, the glamping side of things, using the Pullman stove with the nonstick pans and things like that. And I really want to get into a little more of the cooking over the campfire. So, I'm actually looking for a cold handle pan, the cold steel. I always get that wrong.
Cold still.
Yeah, it's the cold steel pans, where it's got the hollow handle that stays
Oh yeah,
cold.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Uh, so I'm looking for one of those. I know in this area, there's not a lot of people that do this, the camping. If they are, they're the Walmart weekend warriors, go spend a bunch of money, buy a Walmart tent and camp one time, and it's on Facebook Marketplace the next day.
Hey, that's how you find them deals.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now,
Let's
we
see.
think we had another question there.
Yeah, TD knives.
Yep.
Yeah, he asked,
You're the one to answer that question.
what are the cowboy burritos? So cowboy burritos is just how they used to cook burritos back in the Midwest or back in the West, when you didn't have a whole lot of some of the luxuries we have with butter and nonstick pans. So what they would do is they take some of the fattiest bacon that you can buy, or at that time process yourself, throw it on a cast iron pan, cook it in with that grease. And if you don't have a good solid half inch of grease on your pan, you're not doing it right. Once you acquire all the bacon grease, all the deliciousness, you start cracking your eggs and you start throwing them in that pan and using that grease to kind of help mix it all in. And they actually kind of fuss up some of the scrambled eggs as well. You throw that down on either a corn or a flour tortilla. Your choice of cheese. I tend to go for like the Colby Jack cheese and some either Tabasco or some sort of hot sauce is what I like to use. You can use ketchup. Some people prefer ketchup. I use hot sauce. I throw my bacon down, my eggs. I throw my cheese on top, let it melt. Throw my hot sauce. I roll it up, and away we go. Nice, quick, easy, real simple breakfast.
Yeah, I kind of went a little step further with that. I actually cube up potatoes and boil them in water, and then cook them in the bacon grease to crisp them up, and add that in with it too. So
That's the deluxe cowboy breakfast
the
burrito right there.
deluxe.
That's
Oh
the
yeah.
canned version. That sounds good too. I think I know what I'm having tonight for dinner. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. So Tuesday night, I've got like I said, the video coming out of our get together, and in there, I didn't make the cowboy burrito. I thought about it, but uh, I wanted to get back with the guys. But I did make the potatoes, the bacon, and eggs. It was good.
Past Hunters had a good question. How do you cook your food during a fire ban? Depending on the fire ban, depending like the seriousness, obviously nothing over a campfire. But that does not exclude using the little Coleman grills. I have a little 2-burner Coleman grill that you're still able to use during a fire ban. I'll use that. Or if I'm not really looking for a big dinner or anything like that, I have a closet full of different MREs, mountain houses, peak, you name it, that don't require fire. You just add your water in, shake it up real well, and wait for it to cook.
Yeah, like you said, the mountain house and
All
the
right, real
MREs.
quick.
But also, you have the what is it, jet boil, and
Yes, the jet boil. Yep.
yeah, so that's something I don't have, but I do have one of the little smaller single burners that I, can use, heat up a can of soup, heat up water for coffee, whatever. And of course, it's just right there. You got a little quick twist and it's off, you know. So those are typically, and I've talked with the guys in the state parks, and they said, they're cool as long as you, uh, don't do, if there is a burn ban, you can do the contained fires like the gas grills and stuff, but they don't want you uh, setting up a little twig burning stove or something on the forest floor. That's definitely going to create some problems. And another thing to remember when you are doing those twig stoves, that sit actually on the ground, and your fuel burns down to coals and is on the ground, or something like maybe a Dakota fire where you dig the hole in the ground. Uh, that's a case where you got to know your surrounding, because in a Dakota hole, you could actually be setting roots on fire, or maybe not necessarily on fire, but they burn like a hot coal, and they will travel out the roots throughout the ground. So it's something to be careful of. Let's see. Coffee. Randy says, going to get coffee. Can we pause it? Uh, yeah, sometimes I wish, it's like, okay, some of my live streams have gotten quite long. Sometimes you just want to go, uh, okay, we're going to have a little 10-minute intermission here, time to go, you pause for the cause, or maybe, shameless.
I just had to go
Trying,
refill myself.
trying to get Pepsi to sponsor.
Let me know when that happens. I'll start
Yeah,
pushing out content left and right.
I won't hold my breath on that one.
No, we had some really good questions, and I think there's a lot of questions that just never get answered. Like, especially when I started, I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I kind of had to learn the hard way. I mean, I done some pretty stupid stuff in the beginning, like striking a ferro rod with the blade of the knife instead of the backside. You know, stuff like that that you don't really know until you go out and just do it. And you had brought up a really good point earlier about just test stuff out before you go and do it. Test it out. Are you comfortable? Some people don't know if they're going to be comfortable in a 50-degree night versus a 70-degree night. You know what I mean? Just that's one of the huge things. I always so when I go camping with my daughter, I overpack. I take half the house with me just because I don't want her to have that bad experience, especially listening to my friend and how his first time camping was such a bad experience. He didn't camp again for 10 or 15 years before he went out with me and realized how fun camping can really be. Um, there's no shame in taking more than you need. I will say that. You'll see a lot of YouTubers. I used to do it. I would go out with 10 items, throw it in my little 25-liter backpack, and I would be out for 2 days. Just because I can do that doesn't mean I was comfortable. Didn't mean that I wasn't miserable at certain points of time. Um, Not every time you have to go out has to be some sort of a survival challenge. You don't have to prove to anybody. Um, just go out and have fun, and take a pillow. That's what I need to. I literally have it written on my truck when I go camping. I have a sticky note there that says, "Did you bring a pillow?" Because I have forgotten a pillow. I don't know how many times.
Right. And there's another example is, perhaps have a checklist or something that you go through before you go to make sure that you do have everything you'll need with you.
Absolutely.
Uh, I keep all my gear in storage that, I take with me camping and stuff. Most of the time it ends up in there probably in the late fall and comes back in the early spring into the vehicle because I like to stay prepared, a spur of the moment. If I want to go, I go.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But um, like I said, a list, and there's tons of lists out there on the internet. You just do a little search and say, what do people usually bring with them camping? Voila, you'll get so many that you know.
And even if your thing is like, um, you scroll through your phone at night on TikTok or you're watching so for me, even though I'm an outdoors person, I still will turn on YouTube on my iPad as I fall asleep when I'm out camping. It's just one of those comfortability things. It just makes me feel like I'm still kind of, in sync with what's going on. I'm not totally lost out here. Um, there's times that I have to put my phone down when I'm out camping. I don't realize how much I'm on it, whether it's on social media or if it's just like filming. And sometimes I'm like, okay, yes, I want to film my adventure, but at the same time, I also want to enjoy it myself. I'm making this video for you guys to enjoy it. I'm not getting the feeling that you guys are enjoying it if I'm not enjoying it. So sometimes I have to just set my phone down, sit down, relax, remember the whole reason why I'm out here.
Right. And I kind of fall into that pitfall a little bit where like during the day when it's really hot and you just you want to sit in the shade, sip a cold drink and not really do anything. So I might get into the oh, uh, let's see, so and so's got a video out, I'm gonna check that out, and it's like, oh, hey, that's a cool idea. I could be doing that out here, So I might find some new ideas, but you know, put it down for a while. Just
Coffee is a must.
look around, see what you know, the greatness of the outdoors.
I don't want to butcher this name. Gaft LLC. Does that sound right? Is that how
Oh,
you spell it?
Paeft.
I'm looking at my phone.
LC.
He
Uh,
said, "Worst piece of gear you have brought." Yeah,
by the way, that's Adam. He was at our weekend
Adam. Okay.
together last weekend, so
Um,
he does firearms training and
very.
firearms simulation training, stuff like that. So
Worst piece of gear I have brought. Dan knows this all too well. I still have permanent damage because of it. Again, this goes back up to when I did that 7-day survival challenge. Me and two other guys. The whole point of going out there was obviously, besides entertaining you guys and testing ourselves, was also testing different types of gear. We had one guy that had the most expensive gear, REI, Big Agnes, that kind of stuff. One guy had military gear, testing out the military gear, and then someone had to have Walmart gear. And we thought the fair thing to do was draw straws, and whoever got whatever straw was coordinated for whatever type of camping. Let's just say I got the camping gear. Now, the Walmart camping gear, which wouldn't be bad if this was summer, spring, whatever, but it was some of the coldest days that we've ever had, especially being up in Canada. It was negative 68 degrees Fahrenheit as the coldest. The warmest it got was like down to negative 32 degrees Fahrenheit was the warmest that we had. And as you know, Walmart does not sell gear that is suited for those types of conditions. Um, and I mean, you can order on Walmart on .com, but I always thought that was cheating. So all the gear that I had taken out there was gear that I had to buy in store, and a 0 degree sleeping bag, or I think it was maybe even rated for like 10 degrees sleeping bag, did not uh, cover very well. I woke up with hypothermia, lost feeling in all my toes. Couldn't remember my name. It was bad. So if you guys are wanting to get a good laugh, you can check that video out on my channel. Definitely would not recommend going out and doing something like that. But yeah. What about you,
yeah,
Dan?
those were some. You impressed me by doing that one.
It
Um,
was
I'm definitely not a cold. Although, if I had a hot tent, then things might be a little bit different. So I'm considering those things. But worst piece of gear. Um, I would have to say, and this goes probably before even you and I had did the meetup in at Yellow River. I was getting out and doing camping, and of course, you know, I was kind of new to the bushcraft survival scene, and I knew how to camp, I know how to make a fire, the basics. But as far as taking it a step further and doing things, I was watching these videos and it's like, oh my gosh, you know, I need one of the, those big Rambo, Crocodile Dundee big knives to get out there and try to do these bushcrafting things, hacking at a log, building uh, some kind of a mallet or a wedge for basically splitting logs or something like that. So I went to ye old Harbor Freight,
Ooh,
and yes, I did get one of those knives. Let's just say it was not what I expected. Um, First off, I think, the first couple times I batoned, there became a rattle. And then my next one was to start chopping and trying to form that wedge to basically make a wedge for splitting the bigger logs that I had. And think I was probably 3 batons into it and snap,
Mm.
you know. And, when you're kind of basing things off of using that knife for, splitting up your kindling stuff, get your campfire going, short of, yes, there are tons of twigs everywhere out there. Um, to suddenly have a tool just broken. It,
Yeah,
it was it was it was an experience learned, which falls back to try your stuff before you go out.
absolutely. I mean, that could end up pretty bad. I've seen some horror stories of people buying, cheap knives or cheap axes, and they go to use them and they break, and the blade goes flying and cuts a finger off or punctures an artery. And especially if you're out there by yourself, I mean, that can turn pretty serious pretty quick. Um,
Yeah.
some stuff, by all means, go cheap on. Like my, we had talked about it earlier. My, oh, what are we? My jet boil. It's a off brand called Fire Maple, which is literally half the price of a jet boil. Jet boils go for like 120. I think I got this thing for like $40, and it works just as good, if not better. It can put in ice cold water and it'll be boiled to the hottest that it could be within like 10, 15 seconds. So I absolutely love it. Some of the stuff like that I will scamp out on. Other stuff like knives or axes or sleeping bags, especially for cold weather. I've done it. I've been through. I realize that sometimes the price is very justifiable when it comes to your life. Um, so yeah, you bring up a good point.
Yeah, the fire maple is something that I've, been curious about trying because I think one of the things I've found, I do have the burner that it does have a line that goes off to your propane canisters or tanks, but and so it sits on its own legs. But you do have a lot of issues when it comes to wind. It blows all your flame over to one side, and from my understanding, are those better for those conditions?
Oh, absolutely. Not only that, but for a while I was into the ultralight stuff, ultralight tent. I still have my LL Bean tent that weighs like literally zero point 0.2 grams. Um, backpacks, smaller backpacks, stuff like the fire maple stove. I mean, you have a whole entire cook setup right there that all fits all into one. You can fit, your cup in there. You can use as a bowl. You can put a spork in there. It doesn't take up a lot of space, and it's really quick too. So if you've been hiking all day and you're hungry and all you have is like a mountain house or a dehydrated meal that you need to add boiling water to, definitely would recommend. And out of all brands, I'm not sponsored by them by any way, but Fire Maple is by hands down probably one of my favorite companies out there right now because I've had that Fire Maple stove. As you see in my videos, it's been through a lot. I've had it for 5 years now, and I absolutely love it. It still starts right up. It still boils my water within 10, 15 seconds. It's ultra light, and it's actually bigger. The cup that it comes with is actually bigger than the biggest of the jet boil cup that they have, which is really nice too. I've cooked spaghetti in it. I've cooked all kinds of stuff in it. I love it. It's one of my favorite pieces of equipment that I think I own.
Now, does that uh,
And it handles
with
good at
that,
wind. Sorry, I forgot to answer that question. It handles. I used it when we had that big storm, and it never blows out. I don't have to worry about it blowing out and have to start it up again or anything like that.
and a lot of times when we see the pots out there on, say, Amazon, 750 milliliter, 900 milliliter, what typically is the size of that?
So I think mine is 1.5 liters, and I
Okay.
think Jet Boils is 1 liter or 1.2, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to double
Okay.
check. Don't quote me quite on that, but not only did obviously it's a lot cheaper. Like I said, I paid $40 for it. It also comes with a little stand that you can actually put on top and remove the cup, and you can actually put regular sized pans. I've even had my big heavy cast iron pan on top of that and being able to cook on that as well, which it heats up, like I said, really, really quick. So it's really nice.
No, we missed a question a little bit back. Colin had asked, ever get the feeling back in your toes?
Nope, nope. I still can't feel them at all. Nope.
That's what was that Adam Sandler played in where he
Oh,
had
Mr.
the
Deeds.
dead
Yep,
foot?
yep.
Yeah, Mr.
Mr.
Deeds.
Deeds is very, very sneaky. Yep. No, I still don't have feeling in those toes. I don't think I ever will.
Yeah.
That was, yeah, like I said, that was a pretty brutal. Like, if there was any challenges I've ever went and done, I think that one was the one that pushed me the most.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you guys, if you got any more questions, again, throw them up there with the cube for it. Um, you guys have certainly done a wonderful job of asking questions.
Yeah, looks like we just
Oh,
got one
we
more
got
coming.
another one here from Mona. We can always count on her.
Go ahead, Dan.
Let's see. Are the camping outdoors communities more reserved to the preppers or different situations? So, what do you think?
Um, it's a little bit of both. I mean, the outdoor camping, bushcrafting, survival, prepper. Um, in a sense, yes, all different, but with some of the same core values. As far as the mindset of a prepper and a survivalist are almost identical in a lot of ways. Same with a bushcrafter. Um, I think it's just more so the action of it. So, like, preppers are more of the people that are prepped and ready for scenarios versus a survivalist. Um, he's not prepped, he's not ready, but when the time does come, he's going to find a way to survive it. Like a bushcrafter is someone that just like, hey, you know what? I'm here. I'm going to make the best of the situation. I'm just going to thrive out here in this environment. A lot of it is a lot of the same, but very different in so many different ways. Um, some rely more on firearms versus others rely more on um, different methods of getting their food, foraging, wildlife, um, stuff like that.
Yeah, I would agree. And I mean, I'm kind of a blend of, I would say, camping, bushcrafting, maybe not too in depth into the survival realm. Um, and I'm always looking for that ideal term that kind of classifies that because uh, you know I, I'll make fire starters at camp. I'll uh, work on a boomerang. We recently did a challenge for making a boomerang. That was quite enjoyable. It was quite unique. I learned a lot more about my abilities for shaping uh, natural resources like wood. I shaped a piece of wood into a slingshot. So, um, what would it be called? I've heard Campcraft, which that kind of falls under the Campcraft. Oh, uh, let's go out and get some nice flowers and glue them to a piece of paper, for the kids type thing. So that's kind of what I think of when I hear Campcraft. So what do you
I
think?
would I would go out with just maybe an all out woodsman.
There we go. Woodsman. I
Yeah,
like it.
a little bit of everything. A little bit of camping, a little bit of prepping. I mean, because there is a lot of prepping that goes into camping. I mean, anyone that's gone camping knows that there is some prep that is involved. Something so simple like I used to take the night before I would make pancake mix and I would put it in a bottle. So
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to store and a lot easier for cleanup and to cook breakfast in the morning, especially when everyone's waking up and it's still a little bit chilly out and you need to get breakfast going. I mean, it all kind of blends together with the survival, the bushcrafting, camping, prepping side of things. There's a lot of similarities, a lot of commons in there. I just seen another question pop up.
Yeah, so Randy from Ozark's Great Adventures, uh, he is actually subscribed to your channel. I'm sure he appreciates that.
Oh yeah, yep.
He is asking if you would like to come on his live and interview.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I am. That's why I'm here. I love to support the outdoor community. I love to support the people that are going out there and giving it all. Um, Especially like Dan. When Dan asked me to come and do this, I was so pumped. I was so excited for it. I was actually kind of nervous. I haven't done a live stream really in quite a while. I just by happen luckily got on a buddy of mine's live stream last night for the first time in a couple years. So absolutely, anytime. Definitely, I'll have Dan kind of give you my contact information, and we can set something up. But I'd love to. Absolutely.
Yeah, you brought up something there about the community of this. Um, you know, I certainly consider everybody that's been in the chat, you and those that watch the live stream after it's aired. You're the community. We've come to know you as much as you've come to know us, and
Absolutely.
it's through these connections that uh, you know like I feel like Tyler's is the brother I didn't know I had, and that I always wanted. Of course,
Absolutely.
my two brothers are probably gonna hey, wait a minute here,
Hey,
but no, um you just develop that camaraderie that especially if you're going to do collabs and things like that, and it's always good to have people to sound things off of, like you mentioned. I've done helped you
drop
in the
it. Hey,
background, things like that. So
speaking of which, drop it like it's Scott just joined.
is
Man,
that oh man,
man,
we were
it's
talking
nostalgia.
about him
Yeah,
last
it's
night.
nostalgia night. Yeah.
Drop it like it's Scott. Oh my gosh,
Yeah, no
it's been a
community. I
while.
I think that's one thing that I was never prepared for when I started YouTube. Like I said, my YouTube has dropped a lot since I took 2 3 years off. But when I started, man, I mean, my channel blew up. I got monetized real quick. I got a lot of attention from some really big million plus YouTubers, and I kind of built this thing that we all call the Wood Squad community. And I did not realize how powerful it was. I didn't realize how total strangers from all around the world. Like, I mean, Mona is not 100,000, but she's thousands of miles away. And like we talk like we're best friends. Like it is just blown my mind. That's one thing that I never knew was going to happen with YouTube was to build this community. And I mean, there's people that go into other live streams and they're like, hey, the Wood Squad's all here. And you'll see 10, 15, 20 people show up and they're like, oh, Wood Squad. And it's like, it's to this day, it's still, I mean, I will never get tired of seeing it. Like it is so crazy that people are so happy to, be like, hey, I'm part of the Wood Squad, and like it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
Glad you're back.
and,
Thank you,
and
Scott.
I certainly hope I'm a member of the Wood Squad.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember that from way back to, when I first met you. Wood Squad was around then. That's been what over.
Five,
Uh,
5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
let's see, I've been here in Illinois 6 years approximately, and it was at least a year, maybe two, back when I was in Arkansas. So we're probably 7 8 years at least.
Ah, that's crazy.
Wow. Whew.
Yeah,
Man,
time
that goes
flies, man.
back.
Yeah,
But yeah, the things that the community, there's a lot of times where I see they'll help out people in times of need. Um, they'll help people with their channels, and they'll help them with collabs, things like that. And that's what I like about the things that I've gotten from YouTube. Um,
Yeah.
going camping with people. Here in Illinois, there's nobody that I even know to go camping with. So the community, I'm going camping with you guys. So looking for my next adventure.
Yeah, Drop It Like It's Hot. So you were one of the first channels I started following. Yeah, I mean, man, it is just like me and Dan. We were talking late last night about some nostalgia and like how cool it'd be to get everyone back from back in the day that all used to hang out and live streams and talk with, and it's such a cool feeling to see people that we we're so close with and still are. Like I said, Drop It Like It's Scott. I mean, man, like every time I see that name, I have all these flashbacks of like when I first started, because I think me and him kind of started right around that same time, and it's just it blows my mind. Um, and Colin brought up a good point too. Colin's told me I actually knew Colin before YouTube. I had went and did one of his archery ranges, and I got first place. And then Cornfed, that's in here too. He knew me growing up as a kid, and here we are years later. We met in person for the first time a few years back, and he's like, "Yeah, I knew you growing up. I knew your mom," and like it's just the world is so big, but yet it's so small at the same time.
Oh yeah, and you know I haven't run into. I think twice now I've run into somebody out there that uh, recognized me. Now, how they found my videos, I don't know, but I'm not a huge channel by any means, but they recognized me and said, hey, it's Herbert from Herbert T Outdoors, and I was like, who said that? Who said that? You know, who knows me like that? But that's awesome.
Like I said, we have built such an amazing community.
Yeah.
I remember doing the live streams with you, Dan, to help boost your channel up, and we had people
Yeah.
coming in, and um, some of my greatest memories have been like here on YouTube, and some of the people that I've met. Met a lot of good people. We've lost quite a bit of good, people too. Um, just
Yeah.
for me, I've never been a social media like being on the internet person. I've always just kind of been outside doing my own thing. Leave me alone. I'm not a people person. And so like this is still all just kind of blows my mind that I built these connections and met so many um, people.
Yeah. Um, I've it's just the different walks of life that I've connected with too, young and old. Um, like, I've, uh, oh, what's his name? Green. Uh,
Nicholas
who's-
Green.
Nicholas Green. Yeah. I
Yep.
mean, been watching him for many years. I mean, look at the guy. Uh, he was, a young kid that, was chunky and went out and did outdoor things, and everybody watched him, and he got big, size wise. His channel got big, and now he's taken on things in his life to better himself. He went and got his GED. He's got more plans beyond that. He has uh, lost a lot of weight. I think he's 130 pounds that he's
Yeah.
lost.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, Drop It Like Scott said I went to your channel on YouTube unsub you. That's been a big thing too, and I don't even blame YouTube at all. Like I said, I've been off YouTube for about 3 years now. I just started getting back into it. Um, I started YouTube strong. I did it for like a whole year straight. Once I got monetized and got everything going, I burnt myself out just going so hard on YouTube with that first year. I took 5, 6 months off, and then I did it again for another 6 months, and then I took it off for like the last 3 years. I haven't really done much on YouTube. I've maybe posted a few things, just stay somewhat irrelevant. Um, but no, I'm back. I'm definitely back. I've got so much stuff planned out. I have that excitement and that feeling of wanting to make content again and um, everything like that. So yeah, like I said, I've lost quite a bit of subscribers by getting demonetized and just by not being active. YouTube will just start unsubbing people if they're not if the channel's not making any new content. So
Right.
definitely happens.
No, I know what you mean, because we discussed before this live stream what we might discuss in our interview, and one of it was the fact that we both took some time off, lost subscribers, and things like that, and what's your plans to go forward from here. Um, but and I had a chuckle there. Minnesota Mike, MN Mike Outdoors. He posted a comment about me learning to spell the word hot, and we had to get together, like I said, this past weekend. And of course, in the community, people like to pass around their stickers for their channel. So I passed out my stickers, and he goes, "I think you need to learn to spell hot." So that was an experience from a camping trip I will never forget. So
Yep. Pest Hunter says, "Was I there for when he cooked the quail?" No, I don't think so. I think if I remember right, I had showed up a day or two after everyone had gotten to the meetup, and then I stayed. I think I was only there for a day, maybe 2 days. Dan, I don't remember. Does that sound about right to you?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I think if I recall, I showed up Thursday morning, stayed the night. Did you show up Friday night then, maybe?
I think it was Saturday morning is when I showed
Or,
up.
or yeah, Saturday morning. That's right.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Yeah. Yep. He may be dyslexic. The convention, the NRA convention next month. I'm not sure yet. Um, I haven't done anything too big as far as planning stuff out. Just trying to save up money. I got a huge trip coming up. It's gonna take a lot. I'm going to, like I said, the Grand Tetons National Park, and then I have a few other little trips planned up as well. But I do plan on doing another Wood Squad meetup here soon. I think right before my birthday, and the week prior to my birthday, I think I'm going to have a meetup. I just haven't figured out a large enough place yet, which Dan's going to be helping me with that too. Like I said, I don't give this man enough credit. Oh, I'm pointing the wrong way. I don't give this man enough credit because he has done and helped out so much during my years here on YouTube. Whether it's bouncing ideas off of his head or he's just giving me some keywords, titles. Just the last video I did, the success of that video, I owe it to him because he's the one that kind of pointed stuff out and what to use for it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and like today, I was giving some pointers out to uh, Ozark's Great Adventures. He put out one of his videos, and then I said, okay, now you need to make a short off of it as kind of a teaser for the long form video. And so he did that, and then I uh, basically talked him through adding the link and where to find it, especially uh, the link for his uh, long form video from the short. As like I said, it's a teaser, and then you want a link to follow it. So yes, I will help as much as I can. Tyler's given me all kinds of uh, ideas and concepts to try. So it works both ways. In the community of people like we have, being able to bounce those ideas and or maybe the subtle tweaks to make things better. I mean, I look at when I watch everybody else's videos, I look at you know there's a specific thing about the style that they have that makes their channel unique and good. So Tyler has his specific techniques that he does as things that makes it enjoyable. Uh, tonight, Mike, I appreciate you coming in and sticking with us. Uh, Hope you enjoyed it. This is this has been good for me too, because like I said, Tyler and I have been buds for quite a while, and it's great to have him back into uh, making videos again. So,
Absolutely. Yep.
but yeah,
Have a good night, Mike, as well.
the community is just amazing.
Is
Oh
there
boy, good
Mona's
one,
got
Mona.
yeah, Mona's got some great questions.
Wow,
Um,
Mona, you are on a roll.
I think as far as camping, no, I don't think you can really go wrong when it goes to camping because, like I said, everyone has their own preference, whether it's in an RV, in a tent, in a hammock. Um, it's not like a sniper scene where they take this 2 mile shot and you get a bullseye. Nothing like that I've seen. If anything, I've seen a lot of camping movies that's inspired me. I don't think there's been one time I've watched a camping movie that had a really good camping scene that I didn't immediately feel like, okay, I want to go out camping the next day if that's possible. Some of my two greatest movies, Into the Wild is a really good one. That gets me so pumped every time. If I can't go out camping, I will put that movie on. I love watching that. Uh, there was another one with Reese Witherspoon, I think is what it was, where she's hiking the Appalachian Trail. That's something I've always wanted to do. That's on my bucket list of things to do is go hike that. Um, there, yeah, there's. I don't think there's really has been a movie scene of camping that got it wrong in my eyes, anyways.
Yeah, see, I read a lot of Western books, so that's where I can relate to their primitive style of their cooking, their survival. In you know, these people rode across the country on horseback. You know, we hop in a car and uh, like I came from Illinois, went to Missouri. It's about a 6 hour drive. You know, for them it was days, if not weeks, to go that kind of a distance and to do it on a horseback. So when I see these movies of the westerns and them doing it, uh, sometimes I see where they make the trek across, you know, from say Colorado to oh down to Mexico, just that kind of a trek, and have no bedroll. They just got their
Yeah,
saddle and saddlebags. So yeah, of course they probably have fatback and beans and things like that, but absolutely no bedroll.
yeah,
And you know, sorry, just laying down on the ground and throwing your saddle and kicking back against it. Well, maybe that was the life for them. Maybe they were fine with it.
yeah. I've seen a lot of that, and some of the ones that I have seen that have bedrolls. And like you said, a can of beans, and they got a little fire going, and they're resting up against a rock. Not to say that probably wasn't the style back then, but I guess maybe something I didn't think about till just now is, especially with me getting up in age, the way that in the film they just
You
get
got a
up
long
and
ways to go.
yeah, when they get up and they just stretch and they walk off like nothing happened. If I were to sleep like that, I guarantee you, like, if we were doing a real live movie, like, I'd be like, oh, yeah. So I guess that's maybe the unrealistic thing I've seen in movies as far as camping is, sleeping out on the desert floor with just a bedroll or maybe just up against a rock. I know if I slept like that, I'd be in pain for days. So, especially
Yeah.
if you're horseback riding the whole time. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
if you really want to, like a slight taste of that kind of experience, uh, try cutting out any kind of seasonings for
Yeah, it's me every
your
yeah.
food, like no salt, no pepper, no barbecue sauce, none of those things on your meat. Like say you're going to cook a steak. Now, granted, I could probably take a ribeye steak and cook it and be fine with it. But when you have no salt whatsoever for an extended period of time, no ketchup, no pepper, none of that stuff. No sugar for your coffee, no creamer, no Starbucks.
Yeah. So I think everyone nowadays, whether you're hardcore camping or not, you're still glamping because I mean some of the stuff you don't think about like salt, pepper, or ketchup, hot sauce, barbecue sauce, stuff like that. Yeah, you don't realize like we got it pretty easy now. Just hop in a vehicle and what is a 6 hour drive would have took someone a month on horse, um, and then you can only carry as much as you can pack. Now we could just fill up a whole entire truck bed and not have to use hardly any of it. But we have the comforts of it all being right there. So yeah, it's a good perspective.
And you think about, even the people that were in covered wagons and, they would cross, they would fill their water barrels and then travel, well, they could travel a couple of days or something through, maybe a dusty desertish region. And a lot of what I found out about it was, uh, that water in that barrel, number one, came out of, maybe a stream. It might be, cleaner than it is today. But once they put it on the wagon, a lot of times all that dust stirred up from the horses and the wheels and stuff, it got inside that barrel.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah,
Oh, sure.
we need a chuck wagon.
That would be nice. I plan on doing a weekend of horseback doing the old cowboy camping. That's definitely on the list for the channel. I think that's gonna be pretty fun. Obviously, it's not gonna be anytime soon with this cold weather. Um, that's definitely something I want to do. There's so much more that I want to do now than I ever have, especially given my new job and having the time off that allows me to go and do these things. Like I have a list a mile long of stuff I want to do.
So they say that history repeats itself, right? So you think about it, in the primitive times, they would build shelters. Animal skins, would comprise of making a tent. Uh, Now you have the truck tent. So is that the modern day covered wagon?
You know what? I think you're onto something there. I think so. It's definitely like I said. It's definitely nice. Out of all the camping, all the styles of camping I've done, um, it is definitely nice. It's not as hardcore as what I used to do, but then again, I've already went and done all that stuff. I've already proven, at least to myself and to my subscribers, that I can go and do it. But you don't need to do it all the time. I am very much happy climbing up in my nice, warm, hot tent, rooftop tent when it's cold out. Um, this summer, like I said, I upgraded my solar generator so I can run like an AC unit if I need to, if things get too hot in there. So I have
Right.
fans as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, traded horsepower with horsepower. Yeah, I think my chuck wagon's got a little bit more horsepower than the old school one, but yeah.
Right. Well, it's definitely been a night for some awesome questions.
Yeah, I see everyone's response to Starbucks. Yeah, I'm not a Starbucks fan either. Never have been, never will. I don't think I've ever even tried Starbucks to be honest, but definitely that's definitely not part of my future.
I think maybe once or twice I just did whatever their house blend coffee was and put some sugar in it and hot chocolate. And to, some of you may love it, but it was worst stuff I ever had.
See, every time I see it, it just seems like there's a cult of the same people. You see black leggings with brown UGG boots and big white puffy coats, and it's just not my
Yeah,
cup of tea.
yeah. I mean, give me some cowboy coffee, out camping and with a cowboy burrito.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm gonna make
I
later
haven't,
on.
I actually haven't done a lot of the cowboy coffee though. Uh, I, I've actually gotten into the uh, folder or Nestle's makes the little coffee packets that single cup, and it's like an instant coffee. Folgers does it too, but there's one of them that's Nestle's is the hazelnut coffee. I like to do that, and I make cinnamon rolls using one of those basket like. Uh, you've seen the cast iron ones where they got the two handles and they fold together and make a pocket. Well, I've
Oh
got it
yeah.
where it's like a basket and it's got three compartments in it. You put the
Oh
cinnamon
nice.
rolls in each one of them, cook that over the fire. So cinnamon rolls and hazelnut coffee, that's good stuff too.
The French press. Yeah, I still have the same, which I that's one piece of equipment that I need to upgrade here soon is my percolator. That thing has been through thousands of campfires and it's on its last leg. It's about time to get replaced.
Well, it's amazing how much gear we accumulate over the years, and some of it is just used repetitively. The coffee pot, the cast iron pan, uh, you know, the cold steel pans. Which, by the way, I want one. I'll find one. You can't, it's not like you can hardly even order that stuff new nowadays.
Right.
You pretty much gotta find one on eBay or in a thrift shop or something like that, or somebody selling on Facebook Marketplace. But I'll find one. Yeah. Randy says Folders Instant is good.
At the end of the day, if you don't have any coffee and someone brings you, whether it's Folgers, whether they bring you Black Rifle, whether they bring you Euthanopia, like if you ain't got coffee, that coffee is gonna be the best coffee you're gonna have that day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, I don't think, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think I have ever had a French press.
I don't think so either.
I've had a French roast. Does that count?
I think my favorite coffee of all time is what Mark got me hooked on. Is just regular black coffee. I don't remember what brand it was, just some off brand, maybe even a Walmart value coffee. Just brew it up nice and black and throw some dandelion jam in there, and it is probably the best coffee I've ever had.
Yeah, like I said, you know, it's like you said, in camp. if you don't have a cup of coffee and somebody comes up with one for you,
They're your best friend.
it suddenly becomes the best cup of coffee
Yep.
through the whole experience. But I think, like I said, just a basic coffee, a little bit of sugar in it. Well, okay, a lot.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we've had some amazing questions tonight. Definitely
Yeah,
put me on my toes. I wasn't ready for some of these, but yeah.
yeah. I want to know if Mona is available to hire to be in all my live streams for the questions.
Hey, Nona's been part of the Wood Squad now for I think a little over a year, maybe 2 years now, and she's a big supporter. She's very awesome. I'm always happy to see her in the chat.
I mean, look at all these money-making opportunities we've come up with. We're gonna bed and breakfast out your truck.
Yep.
We got Mona for questions.
Make a self-leveling rooftop tent system.
Yeah. Randy came out with that question. Yeah, that's definitely been awesome. And yeah, we're hitting about the 9:30. I was thinking we'd probably be fizzling out after an hour, but yeah, this has absolutely been awesome. I I did see I hit my record. What do they call it? Concurrent
Absolutely,
viewers.
Scott. We'll see you, man.
I hit 21. Hi,
Oh,
Scott. I
I
appreciate you
35.
joining us. That's
Yeah, it's great
when
to
you
see
see
an old
people
familiar
that
face, man.
yeah, good times. Wow. But Tyler, I appreciate everything you've done for me tonight here. Uh, I've really
Likewise.
been trying to get a little more structure into the live streams. Get to interview and some of the people there in the audience. I might be reaching out to you, and you could be the next contestant up on
Right
Number
here.
T's Outdoors live stream. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for everyone, all the Wood Squad, for showing up tonight and showing your support. That means a
Oh
lot.
yeah, absolutely. Tyler, you shared this out. Definitely appreciate that. I know some of the others shared this out, uh, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And I wish everybody out there the best. Tyler, thank you very much. And
Absolutely.
I want to leave everybody with the final thoughts there. Uh, be kind to each other. You know, this craziness that's going on in the world. You know, we're a community. We could be better than that. So,
Absolutely.
and Tyler, if you want to hang around for a bit,
Absolutely.
we'll end the live stream, and then we got the green room afterwards. So,
Absolutely.
all right, you're signing off to everybody. Thank you very much, Tyler.
Stay well, be safe, and God bless.
Yes.